We are raised to believe that honesty is a virtue, a golden thread woven into the very fabric of integrity, leadership, and love. We are taught that truth will set us free, that transparency is noble, that sincerity is a strength. Yet, when we live it, something strange happens. Honesty, instead of elevating us, isolates us. Instead of being celebrated, it becomes a silent burden we carry. We speak the truth, not with malice, not with cruelty, but with conviction. And somehow we lose. We lose opportunities. We lose relationships. We lose the easy comfort of belonging. Not because we are wrong, but because we dared to reveal a reality others were not ready to face. Because we peeled away the veneer society so carefully crafts, and in doing so became dangerous. Honesty confronts people with their vulnerabilities, insecurities, and the illusions they cherish. It disrupts harmony built on fragile pretenses. It demands authenticity in a world that often rewards pretense. And in the face of this demand, honesty is frequently perceived as a threat. This is the hidden cost of honesty. Not rejection because we have failed, but rejection because we have refused to pretend. Honesty isn't simply the act of speaking the truth. It's an act of bravery, a willingness to bear the consequences of disrupting the comfortable lies people tell themselves and others. So the question arises, in a world that glorifies honesty in slogans but punishes it in action, do we lose not because we're incorrect, but because we are uncomfortably real? Truth, by its nature, disrupts comfort. It does not ask for permission. It does not soften itself for easier digestion. When spoken plainly, it collides with the illusions people build to survive. Illusions about who they are, about what the world is, about what they deserve. This is why truth rarely provokes quiet reflection. More often, it triggers immediate defense. The mind, when confronted with an unwelcome truth, scrambles to protect itself. It denies. It rationalizes, it attacks. Anything to preserve the stability of the old story. The reaction is instinctive. People defend their illusions fiercely because illusions offer protection from pain, insecurity, and shame. Facing the truth demands something brutal, the death of a cherished illusion. And death, even symbolic, is painful. It means confronting inadequacies, acknowledging mistakes, and accepting uncomfortable realities. When you tell the truth about a broken relationship, a toxic system, a false narrative, you are not merely offering information. You are demanding a confrontation. You are asking people to re-examine their foundations, to question their loyalties, to dismantle their self-image. You become a mirror reflecting parts of themselves they have chosen to ignore or deny. Few are willing. Fewer are ready. The defenses come swiftly and fiercely. The messenger becomes the enemy. The honesty that sought to enlighten is labeled as aggression or judgment. So they defend. Not because the truth is wrong, but because it is intolerable. Not because you attacked them, but because you revealed what they were desperate not to see. And in that moment you lose. Not because you lied, but because you refuse to. Niccolo Machiavelli observed a stark truth about human nature. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. In other words, society thrives on appearances and rarely ventures beneath the surface. The world often prefers the safety and predictability of illusions, crafted identities, and carefully managed impressions. Honesty pierces these illusions and challenges the comfortable narratives people depend on. When someone chooses to live authentically, they disrupt the smooth surface of social expectation, revealing the complexities and contradictions beneath. Authenticity forces others to confront the uncomfortable gap between their public personas and private selves, between their proclaimed values and actual behaviors. The honest person doesn't simply speak the truth, they embody it. They live transparently in a world built on strategic opacity. They refuse to participate in the silent agreement of pretense that maintains superficial harmony but sacrifices deeper integrity. Machiavelli's insight highlights why honesty is often met with resistance. It threatens not just individual illusions, but the collective narrative society depends upon. People resist authenticity not because they deny its value, but because embracing it demands an uncomfortable transformation. It requires dismantling cherished facades and confronting truths they've invested deeply in ignoring. Thus, honesty becomes disruptive, not because it is false, but precisely because it reveals reality. It unsettles, it provokes, and in this unsettling, the honest person is seen as disruptive, even dangerous, losing social acceptance not for being wrong, but for refusing to participate in the comforting performance of illusion. Honesty, when it cuts deep, often feels like an attack, not because it wounds with violence, but because it wounds with exposure. When someone speaks the truth plainly, it strips away the protective stories people weave about themselves. It tears at the carefully crafted narratives that shield fragile egos from self-confrontation. To the receiver, this stripping away does not feel like illumination. It feels like violation. It feels personal, even when it isn't meant to be. The truth-teller becomes a perceived assailant, not because they used force, but because they removed the veil. Honesty compels the confrontation of realities we are desperate to ignore, personal failures, collective hypocrisies, broken ideals. And for those unready or unwilling to face themselves, the simplest path is to attack the messenger rather than engage with the message. This is why honest voices are so often branded as harsh, rude, or insensitive. It is easier to label truth-telling as cruelty than to acknowledge the internal rupture it causes. The real violence is not in the speaker's words, but in the impact those words have on false selves that crumble too easily. Thus, honesty, no matter how carefully delivered, is frequently mistaken for aggression. Not because it lacks compassion, but because it threatens illusions that have become mistaken for identity. In a world obsessed with appearance, honesty demands something far more dangerous: to be experienced rather than simply seen. To be experienced means to allow others to encounter the full, complicated, and often uncomfortable truth of who you are, not just the curated fragments. Society prefers superficial ease, smiles without depth, politeness without sincerity, relationships that skate across the surface rather than daring to swim in the depths. To reveal yourself fully, to present your truth without disguise, is to become a mirror others may resent. When you are honest, you don't just state facts. You embody realities that others may be trying to escape. Your presence itself becomes disruptive. You force recognition, not because you are forceful, but because authenticity has gravitational pull. People cannot easily ignore someone who refuses to wear the same masks they do. But this authenticity comes with a price: alienation, suspicion, misinterpretation. The more deeply you are experienced, the more you awaken dormant discomfort in others. And the more discomfort you awaken, the more likely they are to distance themselves, criticize, or diminish you. It is easier, far easier, to be liked when you are lightly known. It is infinitely harder to be loved, truly loved, when you are deeply experienced. Because depth demands work, reflection, and an unsettling honesty not everyone is willing to bear. Thus, the honest person often walks a lonelier road, not because they are wrong, but because they have chosen substance over spectacle, reality over performance. In the theater of society, appearances win standing ovations. Success often belongs not to those who are most truthful, but to those who are most agreeable, those who master the delicate art of wearing the right mask at the right time. The world is more comfortable with polished performances than with raw revelations. Authenticity, when unfiltered, demands energy from others, reflection, confrontation, adjustment. A mask, however, demands nothing but admiration. It soothes rather than challenges. It flatters rather than questions. Thus, those who project desirable images, charisma without depth, politeness without principle, passion without authenticity, often ascend faster than those who insist on standing as mirrors. The mirror doesn't just reflect beauty, it reflects blemishes. It shows the wrinkles society prefers to Photoshop away. Being a mirror means holding a space where truth, not comfort, is prioritized. But because truth is often inconvenient, mirrors are rejected, shunned, and labeled difficult, arrogant, abrasive. Meanwhile, the masked are applauded for their adaptability and charm. In such a world, maintaining authenticity demands an uncommon kind of courage. To be a mirror rather than a mask is to choose substance over applause, reality over recognition. It is to accept that being real may cost you status, but it will save your soul. Honesty is not simply about speaking the truth, it is also about knowing how and when to speak it. Not every truth must be shouted from the rooftops. Not every moment demands brutal disclosure. Here lies the essential distinction: strategic honesty versus naive honesty. Strategic honesty understands timing. It respects context. It recognizes that truth, to be effective rather than destructive, must sometimes be shaped with precision, delivered with care, and spoken with discernment. It seeks transformation, not merely revelation. Naive honesty, by contrast, confuses bluntness with courage. It believes that truth is an excuse for cruelty or negligence. It often mistakes speaking one's mind for living authentically, ignoring the damage done when truth is wielded like a weapon without wisdom. Nietzsche warned, "Whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not become a monster." In the battle for authenticity, it is easy to let righteous honesty harden into self-righteousness. It is easy to use truth as a blade rather than a bridge. True integrity does not lie merely in exposing illusions. It lies in knowing how to reveal truth in a way that calls others forward rather than pushes them away. It is the art of being unwavering in substance, but skillful in expression. Strategic honesty isn't compromise. It is compassion aligned with clarity. It is truth tempered by wisdom. It is the rare ability to remain honest without losing either your soul or your humanity. Living honestly does not mean throwing truth like stones. It does not mean standing naked before a hostile world with no armor, no discernment, no care for the terrain. True honesty is not reckless exposure. It is conscious revelation. To survive while living truthfully, one must learn the subtle arts: when to speak and when to remain silent, when to unveil and when to shield. Not every moment demands full disclosure. Not every ear deserves every truth. Timing matters. Context matters. Maturity lies in knowing that honesty is a gift, not a weapon, and that gifts must be given wisely. Unfiltered truth can sometimes destroy bridges that might have carried understanding if only we had been more patient. Protecting your integrity means choosing your battles with discernment, not fear. It means refusing to compromise the core of who you are, but understanding that not every stage is worthy of your deepest self. Some truths are seeds. They need fertile ground, not barren fields. Maintaining honesty without self-destruction requires one essential practice: loyalty to yourself first. Speak not to be applauded. Speak not to win. Speak to remain whole. Let your words flow from alignment, not from anger. Let your truth shine through action, not just through argument. The goal is not to crush others with your clarity, nor to crush yourself with their rejection. The goal is to embody truth so quietly, so unwaveringly, that it becomes undeniable. whether or not it is recognized, accepted, or loved. Because the deepest form of honesty is not what you declare aloud, it's what you refuse to betray within. To live honestly is often to live misunderstood. It is to carry the quiet burden of knowing that truth rarely wins popularity contests. When you choose to reveal rather than conceal, you forfeit the easy rewards that come with conformity. You may lose the nods of approval. You may lose the invitations to belong. You may lose the safety of blending in. But what you gain, if you endure, is something the world cannot give and therefore cannot take away: the peace of being whole. External acceptance is fragile. It shifts with fashion, with mood, with convenience. It demands constant negotiation, endless performance. Internal coherence, by contrast, is unshakable when your words, actions, and beliefs align. When you no longer fracture yourself to be palatable, you enter a realm of sovereignty few ever taste. Honesty refines you. It demands you shed not only the lies you tell others, but the deeper lies you tell yourself. In that shedding, you lose illusions, but you find clarity. You lose approval, but you find strength. You lose popularity, but you find a peace that no applause could ever match. The inner victory of truth is this: to live without hiding, to stand without bending, to exist without apology for the reality you embody. And though the external world may misinterpret, resent, or reject you, within there blooms a quiet, indestructible triumph. You are finally, irrevocably your own. In the end, you do not lose because you are wrong. You lose because you refuse to abandon what is real. You lose because you choose not to adjust your soul to fit a world that rewards performance over presence. But what you lose, applause, approval, temporary belonging, is nothing compared to what you keep. You keep your clarity, you keep your coherence, you keep your quiet, defiant freedom. This path is not without cost. You will walk away from circles where masks are currency. You will say no to invitations that demand your silence in exchange for comfort. You will find yourself standing alone at times, wondering if the price was too high. But listen carefully. The price of dishonesty is far greater. It is the slow erosion of self. It is the daily death by 1,000 small betrayals. It is waking up one day and realizing you have spent your life protecting illusions while your real self withered underneath. To lose the world is to find yourself. To be misunderstood by others is to finally understand your own soul. To be seen as wrong is, sometimes, the surest sign you are living rightly. In a world where everyone sees what you appear to be, but few experience who you really are, dare to be experienced. Dare to endure the loneliness that comes with integrity. Dare to build a life not upon applause, but upon authenticity. Because the greatest tragedy is not losing others, it is losing yourself. And the greatest victory is not winning their approval. It is standing whole, unseen if necessary, but unbroken.